Welcome to our audit bootcamp. We're so glad that you have joined us for a fun and informative 90 minutes of training. Welcome. We wanted to share a few housekeeping notes about this Zoom meeting, and before we get started, this is a Zoom meeting. Our panelists will be speaking, and we ask that all participants please mute yourself during the presentation. Please ask questions in the chat section, and the panelists will review the questions and answer the questions during and after the presentation. We will be sharing video segments covering the basics of the PowerPoint that we share with you. The one part of the PowerPoint will serve as a reference material. After each video segment, we will go into more details and we will answer as many of the submitted questions as possible. One of our goals at Auditor District PTA is to increase our avenues of communications with our members. The finances team contact information is on slide 2 on the handout, and Auditor District PTA has a variety of social media accounts, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I'm going to introduce our panelists. Our training team today is Stephanie Dickinson, Auditor PTA, Flora Fasar, District PTA Tax and Governmental Fillings Consultant, Lisa Yumazzi, District PTA Treasurer, and Linda Morgan, or PTA Recording Secretary. And with no more time, we are going to introduce you a video. If you want to follow along on the PowerPoint slides that we sent you out, this video segment covers slides 3 to 6.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our audit training. We're going to talk about how to conduct a financial audit, and it's really to reasonably ensure the integrity of the financial data and safeguard PTA assets. So it's a little bit a level of assurance that things are being done correctly and transparent to the association, and we want to make sure that all the government taxes are filed. So this is the purpose, just to make sure that everything's being done correctly. Next slide, please. The audit timeline, as in your unit bylaws, there's a mid-year at December 31st and then the end of the year, June 30th. But there may be some in between, and that would be if a check signer is removed or added or a bank account is closed. And also with PayPal, Square, any of those e-commerce, there should be a separate audit prepared for each one of those. Next slide, please. Check with your unit bylaws to make sure of who can conduct the audit. It would be the auditor may be elected and serve on the board, or if they're not elected and they're appointed and approved by the association in the fall, then they would not be a member of the board. So check those bylaws. The auditor must not be a check signer or related by blood, marriage, or cohabitation with anyone on the financial team. And if the auditor is not qualified, which we'll talk about in a minute, a review committee will have to be assembled. The outgoing auditor, which is at this time right now, should be doing the June 30 audit for your units. Okay. The independence of the auditor is of utmost importance, and that's why I've got that in capital letters and bold, because that is very important. The auditor keep an independence and an open mind. Next slide, please. A qualified accountant. This is an insurance requirement that the auditor who performs the audit has to be qualified, such as a CPA or someone who's been trained or licensed to conduct audits and or review accounting records. If you do not have a qualified accountant, then a review committee is needed to be ratified at the association meeting. So they're appointed by the board and approved at the association meeting. And this is an insurance requirement. And it shall be composed of the auditor and at least one other member of the unit. And it's been asked that the council auditor may be the review committee of a unit if they cannot find a review committee. And then the review committee may specify the scope of work of that committee, seek input from the board, because the insurance company did not specify the scope of work.
Lisa, we have a question in the chat.
Yes.
Both CPA and a review committee.
Okay. So for that, a review committee is only necessary if you do not have a qualified accountant as your auditor.
For the purpose of the audit, we said that it was to review compliance with PTA approved policies and procedures and reveal areas of weakness. And why is this so important, these two things? It's because if areas of weakness and non-compliance is not addressed, it may lead to mismanagement of funds. And this is one of the major reasons for units to be disbanded. Should be noted also that mismanagement of funds does not mean a personal benefit was gained by anyone, but that funds are being spent not in accordance with approved policies and procedures. So we want to, as auditors, make sure that we do our part to reasonably ensure the financial health of the unit. The next two, ensuring that the wishes of the association are being implemented and ensuring transparency of board actions to the association and to protect board members. And the second reason why units are disbanded is for lack of leadership. And so these two purposes really lead to whether people join the PTA or not as leaders. So volunteers would be more apt to volunteer if they know that, yes, the association made these decisions, it's very transparent and clear. They're not wondering, why are we doing this? We didn't agree with this. And so transparency, wishes of the association will invite more people to volunteer and as leaders of your unit. And the fifth one was the external taxes. And the government's not shy to let you know if your tax returns are not correct. It is not your responsibility to review the tax returns, but only that they were submitted. So don't worry if they're correct or not. If they've been turned in, just check that box off. Okay, and there was the audit timeline that we went over. I cannot stress enough the independence of the auditor. You should not have any preconceived notions. What you're reviewing is in front of your face. It's whatever is submitted to you. And so you're not going to make any assumptions about the documentation. You're only interpreting the documentation that's in front of you, regardless of who the positions are or whatever. Okay. And the question of the qualified accountant, this is, like I said, an insurance requirement. And so the accountant can be a CPA or licensed or trained in the review of accounting records. Public sector is better, but private sector is fine too. If you don't have a qualified accountant, then a review committee is needed. The board must appoint the review committee members because the president, who ordinarily appoints, is a check signer. So the board would appoint the review committee members, and the association would have to ratify them or approve them as well. Okay, and the scope of work of the review committee is up to the review committee and the board. That was not specified by the insurance company. I would recommend that the review committee look at the report, the beginning balances. If there's any findings, recommendations, maybe look at those, make sure that they agree with those, but you are not expected to redo the audit. Okay, is there any questions?
There was one question just really specific to the qualified accountant. Um, they're saying they're not a qualified accountant, but does have experience in doing audit and compliance as internal auditor. Does the unit still need an audit committee to review?
And what company or entity have they done that for?
And
Was it-
the person who asked this question, if you want to unmute yourself
Oh,
to give
I
more
think
detail.
It's like a property holdings. We did but my experience is not like here in US. I come from Malaysia, so I did my working experience there. I'm working with this holding company. I'm doing the internal audit there and the
Okay,
compliance.
Yeah, that's a specific, industry and stuff. Did you have any? Well, we could talk about this later, but
Okay.
Yes, actually, Anisa, if you want to follow up, you can maybe email one of us on the contact information that's in the handout, just to remind us to look into it, and you can give us more detail.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
it's okay, but just want to confirm, because but even then our unit, we still have the audit review, because I'm not sure there's whether I'm qualified in that.
Yeah, I think that's safe to do. I think you're right, that just to have one, just in case, something happens, you don't, insurance companies aren't in business to pay your claims, and so they'll find any excuse not to pay it. So we don't want that to be an excuse.
Oh, okay. And also talking about the scope of the audit.
Yes.
Because I know I'm just doing more like a financial audit. It's more like a very basic, like cash basis. We don't do like a accrual things or whatever. It's more like very straightforward. So my question is, are we as an auditor also supposed to go through like the organization procedure to make sure everything's supposed to be in order?
Yes. Okay. Most PTAs are on cash basis of accounting, so we really don't do accruals, so that's fine. There is an audit checklist, which is in your packet.
And
It's
actually,
more of
that's
an
the
audit.
next video anyway.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Right. And so that will tell you what the audit program. So if you follow that audit program, which we're going to go through, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Our next video will cover the audit checklist described on the slides 8 through 10.
This is one of the 2 required main forms that you need to conduct your audits. Complete the list at the beginning of the audit to show what was received from the treasurer and the recording secretary. You can consult with the treasurer or secretary via email regarding items missing for the audit. Next slide. The remainder of the audit checklist may be viewed as questions to test the unit's compliance with established PTA policies and procedures. When checking off the items as you go along, they'll be rather helpful instead of waiting till the end to review them. The order in which the questions are answered at the discretion of the auditor is based upon the personal preference or the filing system of the unit treasurer books, such as your month end by document or your different type of reports like treasury reports. Attached are the samples of the cash verification forms, the authorization forms, treasury report, bank statement reconciliation, and ledger report, which must be reviewed in accordance to the audit program. All the financial data is the same, just put into different formats. Important is that the auditor does not make any corrections to the documents while conducting the audit.
As far as financial documents, one may think that minutes and bylaws are not financial documents and shouldn't be included. So we wanted to make sure that we inform you how minutes and bylaws are needed. The minutes express the wishes of the association. So we have to make sure as auditors that expenditures are approved in accordance with the wishes of the association. And how do we know what those wishes are? Minutes should include approval of payments, release of funds, the programs that are approved, the budget that's approved, and also the election the minutes must cover the election, and we need to know that that election took place, and there is actually a board. And treasury reports are presented, so we want to make sure that those are in the minutes also. And so that's why the minutes are so important for us, as auditors, to review those, to make sure that they are transparent and the association is getting all of the information that they need. Also, the bylaws, and we want to review the bylaws because some units may collect membership fees like $10, but their bylaws only allow $8. And so that's a major finding, and you wouldn't know that unless you had the bylaws. Also, the bylaws indicating the meetings that you should have. Board meetings should be every month, but association meetings may not be, so that should be specified in your bylaws, and you need to make sure that they're holding meetings in accordance with the dates that are in those bylaws. It also indicates check signers who may sign the checks, is specified in there also. So you want to make sure no one is signing checks that are not included as authorized check signers in the bylaws. Also, you have your meeting quorums in the bylaws, as well as the founding year. If you apply for a raffle permit, that founding year will be in your bylaws also, and it will also indicate if you're incorporated or not. So there's a lot of information in the bylaws that is required for you to review as the auditor. As far as the audit checklist, the first part of it are the items which are required. I would tell you to as soon as you receive the information from the treasurer or the unit, that you check that off right away. You may take some time to get to the audit, but I've had a lot of experience where they say, I gave that to you, no, you didn't. And there's, kind of a chain of custody there. And so you want to make sure you check off the documents that you get and make sure that there's an agreement there for the chain of custody of the documents. The last part of the audit checklist is really your audit program. And to answer the young lady before who had the question, this is more of an internal control review, testing compliance. It's not really an audit in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. So that's where I think the difference is what your question is. So these are the steps that should be taken. You should check off, that things are being done correctly. This is about 90% of the treasurer is taught in their treasury training that they have to do. So this is a great checklist for the treasurer also to make sure that they're doing things correctly. Okay. Are there any questions?
Well, I had someone direct message me to commiserate with the whole thing about, I guess, one of the units, their bylaws say $8 per membership, but they've collected $10 for the past 5 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I would say for this year, stop. And if you've collected any, I mean, what can we do? It should have been identified a long time ago. Update your bylaws, and you have to get approval for the fee increase from the board and the association. It's not just like you can just do it. And if you collected this year and you just found out, I would suggest any members.
I'm just on their board this year. I have never been on their board. My son is not even at their school yet. He goes there next year. So I started volunteering now. And when I got the bylaws, I'm reading it. And that was the first thing that caught my eye. I'm like, wait a minute. I just paid $11 online because Totem charges me an extra $1. But I'm looking at the bylaws and it says $8. So I'm like, wait, I've just been charged. And then when I looked at their bylaws, it hasn't been updated since 2017. And so I'm like, so since 2017 up to now, you've collected $10 per membership when you were supposed to collect $8. So what do I do at this point?
Yeah. Well, because you just found out, we can't go back. and refund everyone. That would be, kind of hard. So I would say you have to immediately update your bylaws. And we just so happen to have an expert on bylaws, Linda Morgan, who was a parliamentarian at District last year. But as far as this year, now we know. And I would say for your members this year, as far as the financial, and then Linda can help you with the bylaws, you may want to send out an email to the members that you have so far, telling them that they have been overcharged, or however way you want to put it, but do they want to apply that as a donation? Probably 9 times out of 10, if it's $2 or whatever, they may be willing to donate that. I seriously doubt that you'd have a lot of refunds. But now that we know it, we need to address it by updating the bylaws and rectifying at least what we know now, because we know these memberships haven't been forwarded yet. But do you have anything for us, Linda, for the bylaws? Or?
Well, that would be a whole nother training session, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely need to look into updating them. The best thing to do is to reach out to our 33rd District PTA parliamentarian and just to verify that you have a current copy of their bylaws. You may have been handed an older one. They may have updated them, after 2017, and you may just be having an older copy. That would be, a good thing. So you can verify that, and then if not, the parliamentarian will give you instructions on what to do. If you want to look into it now, I suggest going to capta.org and look for the 4 key steps on approving your bylaws, and it'll give you a very basic overview on what you need to do to get them updated. And for the email, it's parliamentarian@33rdpta.org. And I will leave it at that if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, we're so lucky to have you here.
And Anisa had her hand up briefly, but she put
Yeah.
it down, so I don't know if she has a question.
Yeah, I have a little question. What is the changes of the due? It's just happened this year, but it's not been approved yet. It just changed. Like my unit, we want to increase our due from $8 to $10, but these changes will take effect next year, next school year. So that will be okay, right? Like we are not like,
no, you need to collect your $8.
Yeah.
Yeah, you collect your $8 this year until
Yes.
it's been approved and by your board and association and the bylaws approved.
Yes.
You cannot charge the $10 until
No,
all
no.
that's
We don't
done.
plan to change. We don't
Okay.
plan to collect $10 this year. It will be
Okay.
next year, in the next school year. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions now, I'm going to just toss up a little exercise here. Hold on. Here, launching a poll. Here we go. Alrighty. So, which of these items are needed for an audit? And obviously, it's a multiple choice. So you can click as many as is applicable. And feel free to keep throwing any questions in the chat while this is going on. We do seem to be slowing down, so I'm just going to go ahead and end this and share the results. Okay. Righty. So, Flora, do you want to go over the results?
Okay, yes, a copy of the previous audit report is needed because you need that ending balance, and the checks that were outstanding, they may still be outstanding during this audit period, so you need to carry those forward. Copies of flyers distributed by PTA? No, that doesn't have a financial impact on anything. Current bylaws and standing rules? Yes, we went over that. Originals of checkbook register, handwritten or computer? Yes. We need that documentation as well. The bank statements may be requested online. It doesn't have to be sent by the banks. So originals can be online bank statements also. Deposits, supporting documents for the cash receipts. Yes, of course. General communication between board members. No, we don't need that. It doesn't have a financial impact. It is not part of any kind of minutes or official discussions. Authorizations for payment with attached receipts, yes. And those authorizations for payments, since COVID, we've allowed signatures do not need to be original. They may be emailed and scanned and returned. So to make it easier for people, or e-signatures of some sort. Monthly treasurer's reports, of course. Original treasurer's books, ledgers, including backup files, external storage device if books are kept on a computer. Yes, we need the original treasurer's books and those sorts of things. Copies of the board.
Flora,
yes,
that actually
yes.
interrupt, because this this poll only has 10 of those items that were on our original list.
Oh, sorry.
So
Okay.
just, I think the committee one is the only one that I think is on the poll that you haven't addressed yet. Or have you?
So the committee reports from chairman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Committee reports from chairman, including fundraising membership. Yes. Because we need to know what's going on in those committees and see what's brought forward to the board as a result of those committees. Is that all?
Yes.
Okay.
So if any of you have questions regarding why any of these are or are not required for the audit, now would be a great time to ask those questions. But if there are no
I
questions.
have a question.
Oh, yay.
Sorry. Do we need the minutes from the executive board, or no? It's not important. Not in the not for the year-end audit. Do we still?
The recording secretary should submit the minutes to you, if you know, but they can be gotten from the board also.
The executive board minutes? I mean,
It would be both. It would be the executive board minutes and the association minutes. You need both. Yes.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Quick question. So then that would take place at the committee reports, right? The minutes and the executive board minutes.
Yeah, you may have separate minutes for committees or whatever's discussed by the committee at the board meetings. It would be in the board minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Guadalupe has her hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you. Any voting that is done outside of an actual board meeting or association meetings, do those that come in through email, do those need to be also included in the audit?
Voting should only be at the board meetings and association meetings. If you have committee voting, that would be in your committee report, that it would be like what you are saying that should be done. But any kind of voting is in the board meetings and association meetings. There's no proxy voting or email voting or anything like that.
Okay, because we've been told that as long as the whole PTA board can vote via email for any type of spending, if there isn't a board meeting able to happen for emergency purposes, that we can do those through email. Is that not correct?
Well, there is, in your bylaws, there is opportunity for the board to approve a budget in between association meetings if there's some kind of emergency or something, but it usually should be done at the board meeting. I have not heard of board meetings via email. I don't think that's an approved method by CAPTA.
No, and in your bylaws, there's rules or protocol on calling a special meeting. If, you know, none is scheduled in between and then before the event, you could call a special meeting, but all approvals have to be at a meeting, an official meeting where you take minutes. So it is in the minutes, because again, the minutes are your legally binding documents for your PTA. If it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. You did not get proper approval, so that gets you into trouble.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think the problem with email is that anyone could send it. I mean, it's not necessarily the board member that you can prove is sending their approval, you know what I mean?
Okay, I'll go ahead and relay that to the rest of the board then. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any more questions about the checklist topic? If not, we'll go on to the next segment.
In this
Yeah.
video, we will cover slides 15 to 18.
This is a sample of what your monthly treasurer report should look like. This example is from November of 2019. As you can see, it shows all the income coming in, your deposits, your bank adjustments, and then all of your expenses as well. You need to list all of your checks and on this one too, bank adjustments going out. This treasury report should account for everything that happens during the month. So this one should be from the beginning of November until the end. So it should include everything, including outstanding checks. This form is a sample of the bank reconciliation report, which your treasurer should be reconciling to the bank statement every single month. This shows all of your income and coming in and your expenses going out, along with your outstanding checks, and your balance at the end should balance with your bank statement. Once this report is done, then two people need to sign off on it, review it, and sign it off. Okay, this is a sample of the ledger. This is prepared each month in conjunction with a treasurer report and the bank reconciliation. On this form, you are breaking down each expense and your income into the different classifications that is used for the purposes of filing your taxes. This is a second required form when completing the audit process. This is a sample of the audit report. While this sample is a little bit unusual where it only covers 1 month, your typical audit report covers July 1st through December 31st and January 1st through June 30th. This audit is for periods covering November 1st through November 30th, 2019, covering checks 3075 through 3078. Your first line where it says balance on hand should be your ending balance from the previous month. Your receipt should be all income that was received during the reporting period. You're going to total that. And then from there, you're going to take out your disbursements for the total reporting period, which should give you an ending balance, which should match your treasurer report from the last period in this audit time. Then you're going to pull your bank statement, which is from your bank reconciliation, and put in your bank balance on the next line. You're going to add in any deposits that you have not made or have not been accounted for on the bank statement. Then you're going to add in your uncleared checks, the check number and the amount, and total them and put it in the uncleared column. And when you subtract your bank statement balance minus your uncleared items, your balance should match your treasury report balance on hand in the section above. If you notice the asterisks, both of those need to match when this audit is complete. The next step is you will put in any findings in which you have found in your audit and check the box whether you have no recommendations or it's correct with substantial recommendations and you attach them, or partially correct, or your audit is incorrect. You need to date your audit the date that you've completed it, then submit it to your audit review committee. Once that's done, then you're going to have your executive board adopt it and date it, and then bring it to the association, which is the last step. Please make sure that you're signing your audit and checking whether you are a qualified accountant or not, and then have the review committee sign it on the bottom to make it a valid audit.
So
Okay.
one question is, do we need to itemize each check received in the ledger and treasury report? For example, check received from memberships or sale of spiritware?
Okay, for the treasury report, yes, you want to identify each deposit and each check. For the ledger that's going to be used for tax purposes, you may just report account balances. The detail of the ledger will be in your treasury report unless you're not using My PTEC or that detail is not somewhere else.
Actually,
So
I'm gonna-
sometimes
Sorry, I'm going to actually ask Anisa to unmute and clarify this. Are you saying that, say, if you get in 10 different checks for memberships, do you need to list them separately? Is that your question?
We do it in ledgers. Yes, we have to because it's easier for tracing. Let's say we have bounce check, then we know who's issuing this check. But how about in the treasury report? Can we just put in the treasury report, okay, on this date, check from membership, just one total amount instead of itemize everything?
So do you keep manual records?
Yes, we do, but we do it in the spreadsheet, yeah.
But the spreadsheet, is it Excel or
Yes,
is it?
in the Excel.
Okay, so your treasury report needs all of the detail, the check numbers, the receipts. That's where you report all the detail, what it's for and everything. As far as the
Flora, I'm going to just, I'm sorry, but I think she's talking about separate checks that are within a deposit that they're receiving. So if you have receipts, like on a given day, you receive 10 checks.
It should be by type of revenue.
Right. So, but you're not going to list every, oh, you don't have
I'm
to list.
talking about each check like you write.
Right.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding that.
Yeah, that's why I asked Anisa
Yeah, we
to
are
clarify.
talking about the check, not the check issued. We are talking about the check.
Oh, I see.
Receipt. Yeah,
I see. So as long as it's by type of revenue, like you're not going to lump together memberships with family dinner nights.
Oh, no. Okay, so you have to categorize each check received by category. Let's say we have 10 checks received from membership in 1 month, let's say. But then when we prepare the treasury report, we just put like one line of membership. This is an amount, okay?
Yeah, because you will have that detail in your cash verification form.
Yes, in the ledger, yes. Ledger and the
no, in the cash verification form, you list each check.
We list each check, but we didn't put itemize, like say from who, from what, I mean, yeah, that's true. We didn't, I'm sorry, cash verification, yes, we list down all the checks, definitely, but I'm talking about the ledger.
So the ledger, you could just do one line item for each cash verification form.
In the ledger, okay.
In the ledger, yes.
Well, in the treasury report, you can do by type of revenue. In the ledger, it's not really necessary to break down by checks or checks received or deposits. That's kind of the old way, if you already have that detail. If you're just trying to ascertain your tax categories, you could put account balance. For example, all the money you collected for the carnival, you can put in one line item saying carnival income and put it under fundraising. So for the ledger, you don't need a lot of small specific detail, just account balances, because that's all you need to know to do your taxes. So you don't want to restate a lot of things that you already have. So it's just a matter of not restating things over and over.
Okay, great. Let's see. I'm not sure if you got to this question in the chat. There's a question that says, who creates the ledger? So Paul's an auditor, but does he need to do the ledger?
No, the treasurer prepares the ledger, and auditors, even if there's errors, you do not correct it at all. You don't correct anything when you're auditing. But at the bottom, if you've audited to that point, you would just put a double line in red saying audited, maybe sign your name and the date, showing that up to that period, it has been audited.
And then there's a question, our previous treasurers have created the monthly treasurer's report based on the period between board meetings as opposed to the calendar month. Is this incorrect?
That's the choice of your board and association. Sometimes they want more recent information if your board meetings or association meetings are in the middle of the month or toward the end of the month, and they may want to know, as stakeholders, what money you have, like right now, as opposed to the end of last month. So actually, they are kind of encouraging for board and association meetings to have sort of different dates. Like if your board meeting's the 10th, you could run a treasury report or prepare a treasury report from the 10th of the prior month to the 10th of the current month when you're having your board meeting. That's a choice, or it could be the month before.
Personally, I would tend to do the treasurer's reports on a calendar month basis, but also be prepared with any transactions that came up since the beginning of that month. Just because then you'll have the calendar month treasurer's reports that match up to the calendar month bank statements. So then you have what you need to reconcile. And then if it's just a matter of reporting what's happened since the beginning of the month, then you're still being transparent.
Right. I didn't say, I don't want to imply that the mid-month treasury reports take the place of the month-end treasury reports. You have to do both because like you say, you have to have the treasury reports monthly in order to turn them into the council if they require those. And also at the end of the fiscal year, you have to have treasury reports up to the end of the month. So you have to do both. And there is a risk of gaps or overlays as far as reporting of the treasury reports, but that's an option. But those reports are internal. Any kind of mid-month treasury reports is internal reporting. The monthly treasury report is kind of like your external reporting, like you're sending that out to the council and stuff.
So maybe now is a good time to put in a plug for it. That's why My PTEZ is a useful tool, because once you put in all of your individual transaction data, you can prepare reports based on whatever customized dates you need. So,
Yeah.
but I understand that not everyone's on My PTEZ, and if you're doing stuff on Excel or even manually, then it becomes a lot harder. So that's why I presented the option of, well, presenting the monthly ones, but be prepared with any information that happened since the beginning of the month.
I have another question, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, for the service fee, we use a Square to sell our spiritware. And how the spiritware, they charge service fee, but we don't record the service fee in our report. We just we just recognize the income. I mean, the cash basis, whatever we receive cash, that's what we are putting in our revenue. Instead of the gross sale made, we put the cash
Yeah.
received. Is that
Yeah, that's not correct.
okay?
Really, I mean, that we can change that.
So we can, okay. I will
Because
change
the
that.
fee is the cost of doing business, so it should be recorded as an expense. And so if you have a $10 sale, you would report the whole $10 to, let's say, Spiritware Sales, and then 50 cents, whatever it is, to a fee expense, a Square fee, PayPal fee, whatever it is. And then the difference is what's recorded in your bank. And this would be for everything. For Totem, for example, you'll need to pull a report, and this is something else. For an auditor, it would be you have to prepare an audit for separate e-commerce accounts like PayPal and Square. And for Totem, you need to pull those reports and include those in the auditor. You need to request those. I'm sorry, I think I'm talking treasurers. Auditors will need those reports, summary reports off Totem, for example, because you want to know the number of memberships, but that may also include donations, and they charge 5% for collecting donations. So you would record, let's say, 10 memberships and $100 donation as a gross donation, and then let's say 50 cents, I think they charge 5%, as a Totem fee for donations.
Okay, I'm going to ask Linda to share the what's wrong with this audit report screen. And then Flora, you can, while people are looking over that, there's another question in the chat that maybe you can address. Okay, I hope you all can see this. I hope it's large enough on your screen. But yeah, if you see anything that's unusual or remarkable, go ahead and toss your suggestions in the chat. Okay, and Flora, before this question gets lost, there's a question that says, do cash verification forms need to be completed for the income received from online transactions?
Okay, so if you're on a financial system like PTEZ or something like that, you would just post you would get a report, a summary report from Square, from Totem, and post to your accounts. If it's a manual system and you're handwriting most everything, I would say use the cash verification form, but make sure it says Square and attach the summary report to the back of that cash verification form, because you sort of need something. Systems have a process for doing that, but if you're a manual, if you keep your system, your finances manually, I would use the cash verification form to keep track of that.
I have a question off that then. I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand on the thing. It's not letting me. So then do we do, like you said, for Square, do we have to do one for Totem also then? Because it's the same thing. We're having money coming in.
Any kind of e-commerce that you have, Square, PayPal, Totem, if you're on a manual system, I would use a cash verification form and attach the report, the summary report, to the back of the cash verification form so that people know where that came from. Now, you don't necessarily need signatures. You're not counting money, but it's just like a face sheet to show, the amount and what you're posting and everything. But it's
proof of what's coming in.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be counters and stuff, because you're not counting money. You're just posting,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Normally during for Totem and I'm sorry, and Square, they send us what called like emails, notify that okay, we send you this this amount to your bank account, like so that we can use that as our supporting document, right? For the
That
income
sounds
receipt.
like a drawdown from PayPal. As far as PayPal is concerned, yeah, you can use, you have to draw it down, I believe, unless things have changed. That, and that's important because you have to draw down those funds at least once a month or more often if you have a lot of business.
Square
Yeah.
is automatically, they just send you every
Right.
time you.
Yeah, PayPal, you have to draw it down, but Square and Totem and, you know, most others, they automatically post to your bank account.
Yes.
I would use the bank statement to show the amount, but also a summary report off the e-commerce site to show the type of revenue, because sometimes they give you one amount, but it could be for membership, it could be for you know, any other things that you're collecting through your Square or, you know, your PayPal. So you want to make sure that you're showing the type of revenue.
Yeah, the Totem, you can do the reconciliation from the report, you know, from the
summary report. Don't need
Yes.
the detail, just a summary.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, Flora, there seem to be a lot of responses. So 1051 is the first one where Jennifer says ending numbers don't match.
That's true. Okay. And yeah, the 637 and 673, there's a reason for that other than just a typing error, but we'll see if anybody got that.
Okay.
Membership numbers, true, because the total members year to date must include the e-members also. So obviously that figure, which should be 116, let's say. Adopted by association, exactly right. Thank you. The board has to adopt it first before the association. It should start January 1st, not the 10th. Oh, you guys are so clever. I tried to be sneaky. Just not my nature, I guess. Very true. January 1st. Starting date audit January 10th. That's right. Balances don't match. The audit has been marked as correct with recommendations. Yes. And that's okay. The audit has been marked as correct. And let's talk about that. That's a new category. It's just came out in April, and it's going to really relieve of a lot of hard feelings because it was very difficult to do the audit before, because even if you had a little recommendation, you'd almost have to say that the information was substantially correct, and it broke a lot of hearts, believe me, a lot of treasurer hearts that worked so hard, and then you had to mark that one. So this is a great improvement in the audit report, is that it's correct with recommendations. The ending check should reference 117. Exactly correct. Adopted by association, yes. But sometimes that happens, no. No, it should always be approved by the executive board first, and it would be a board recommendation. Number of balances are reversed, yes. The auditor is not certified, yes. The auditor is not certified. It doesn't say, it says that they are not certified, but the review committee names are not listed, and that's true. We need that review committee because they are not a qualified auditor. Okay. 117, not signed by review committee person. Is this new report up on CAPTA? Yes, it is. There's a fillable form, and on the district website also, as well as CAPTA, and you should be able to get that form. Okay.
So are there any little tricks you had on there that nobody caught?
Yeah, I did. And it's very subtle. Shame on me that I'm being that way.
Oh, this is a basic thing.
I know, I'm sorry. The IRS EIN should be 9 numbers. So on the example of the audit report, that we saw earlier, I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to show that there should be 9 numbers. So there's a number missing. And that's kind of important. It's public record. And it's kind of important because sometimes you use that number for other things. And you might refer to the audit report saying, oh, I'll just pick up the number from there and it's incorrect. And then you won't be able to do your business. So it's important for that one to be correct. Also, everything was caught except the reason for the difference between the 10,637.24 and the 10,673.24 is that there's a missing $36 check that's not listed in the outstanding checks. And that could be for prior period. And I wanted to include something like that because you need to check the prior period audits to make sure that all of the checks that were listed on that audit were cleared in the current audit period. And this would be apparent if your unit prepared the bank reconciliations, but don't count on it. So if you don't have a current bank reconciliation from the unit and you can't get that to balance, it may be a prior period check. So I just wanted to bring that up. Okay.
Righty. Good job, people.
Yeah,
Okay.
really good.
I think we're ready to move on to our next segment.
Okay, so our next video will cover audit findings and recommendations, and they're on slides 22 and 23.
The auditor's finding and recommendations are the auditor's opinion based solely upon the documentation presented for the audit, as well as pertinent, as deemed by the auditor, written communication during the process. Judgment may be exercised to report a finding based upon the totality of a review or a pattern. It is important to not personalize your audit or just state your clear findings. Your report should be clear and concise, as well as reflect the total independence of the auditor. For example, in a finding of check number 105 in the amount of $65 dated October 13, 2019 was not supported by receipts. You would state that the recommendation is that all check authorization forms must include the documentation such as receipts or invoices which supports the amount of the check requested. In the audit approval process, the auditor may present the audit report as well as the findings and their recommendations to the president and the financial team for discussion prior to submission to the executive board. The audit findings and recommendation report, in addition to the audit report form, must be presented to the executive board for approval. The audit report only may be presented to the association for approval, and the findings are presented to the executive board. Once that has been completed, you're going to submit to the next level of PTA. If the auditor is not available to present the audit, then a member of the review committee may do so. Financial officers should not present the audit to the executive board and association.
There's a question. I was like, can January through June audit be on the former report? One with review committee signature, but without the 2 correct boxes. I wouldn't, the new audit form went into effect in April. So if at all possible, you should use the January through June new audit on the new form. If that category is not relevant, if it's correct or you weren't going to check that box anyway, you know, that may be okay. We don't want people doing things over if they've already done it. But going forward, the new audit report should be used, and it was effective last year. Okay. Yes, for the findings and recommendations. Again, you want to make sure that you're demonstrating complete independence. You're just reading the documentation. You're not making anything up. And also, I like just to touch on judgment. We said that the purpose was to test compliance, you know, make sure they're doing things right. And so I said in the totality of the process, if they like miss a signature somewhere or, you know, there's something that's missed, but you're comfortable that the procedures are in place and being followed, and this was just like maybe a human error, I don't think that would raise to the level of a finding. You may mention it, but as far as making it a finding, I myself, and that's up to you, I would not do that because there's more of a downside than an upside if you do that. That would be very discouraging to the treasurer if you found one thing that was wrong, and so it's up to your judgment. But if you're comfortable, procedures are in place and are being followed, I would just maybe mention it, but I wouldn't put it as a formal finding. That's my opinion. So as far as written communications with the treasurer, you may ask for things or whatever, but that's up to you also. You may just accept what they gave you. It's important to know that you're just reviewing the things that are submitted. It doesn't mean they weren't prepared, but they weren't submitted. So when you write an audit finding and stuff, you will say, a treasury report for June was not submitted. You don't know that it was not prepared. So it's things like that and stuff. So I would limit the communication between the treasurer and the auditor during your audit. But if you do, it should be written. It shouldn't be over the phone. It shouldn't be texted. It should be in an email so that you have an audit trail, as it were, of the communication between the treasurer and the auditor. Okay. Are there any questions?
There's a hand raised. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay. I have a question. Can an audit finding or recommendation be held against the unit?
Be held against the unit. This should be, the audit should be a opportunity for improvement. It shouldn't be, punitive or anything like that. So I don't know what you mean by held against the unit. No, the council district won't go through the audits and, say, oh, they had that, that's bad. The only time, a council okay, so if you find something that you feel is not right and you feel may be or may result in mismanagement, and again, mismanagement is not necessarily a personal gain, you should not take it upon yourself to pursue that. If the president, is not involved, you should take that to the president, who should take it to their council. And the council is there to help you with things. And I just had one where I included the council president in a situation. And they went to the district. So we want to make sure this is not on you. You do not have to be responsible for, things. You're not investigators. You're auditors. And so if something doesn't feel right, pass it to your council with the information that you have, and they will take care of it. And the council may take care of it, look into it, or pass it to the district. So do not pursue anything on your own that you feel is mismanagement. Okay.
No. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it to like, what if we receive an audit report, and do we submit those audit reports when we do our taxes? Would something be written on the audit report recommendation that would like kind of put us in jeopardy in our taxes? That's what I kind of meant.
No, it's just that the auditor will make sure that your taxes are submitted, but they have nothing to do with what you are submitting to the IRS or Franchise Tax Board.
Oh, okay.
No, the audit has nothing. The audit is an internal to the PTA. It doesn't go outside of the PTA, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no. No, it doesn't. It's an internal PTA document.
Okay, thank you.
All right. But I did want to talk about mismanagement. So you brought that up, so I appreciate that because I forgot about that.
Okay, I think maybe Linda, can you share the next document?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask.
One more thing. Sorry, we have Jennifer Rossi who raised.
Jennifer?
Hello. Hi. I was curious. When you talked about forwarding the audit report to the next level up. In the past, we've had to turn in the report, the checklist, and the last statement, like whatever for the period. Someone had just told me recently that we didn't need to send in the statement anymore. Is that true?
I think that's kind of optional. Yeah. I kind of like doing it just for myself because I know that the ending balance is correct and stuff. But as long as you have that documentation at your unit level, the council should accept them with just the audit report and the audit checklist.
And the same goes for 33rd.
But it's not, yeah, but it's not bad to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's not included, that's fine.
If it's not included, it won't be rejected.
Oh, okay, great. For 33rd as well as council?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you want to introduce this, Flora?
Okay. The audit report, okay, how to write an audit finding. And then we're saying the audit findings should be written in a positive but a firm manner. You don't want to, be mean. It should be based on documentation submitted to the auditor for review and should reflect the independence of the auditor. A firmer tone may be taken for repeat findings. Please critique the following findings in light of the above statement. Okay, we're saying the June 2021 Treasury report was not prepared. Is that a good statement?
No.
No, because we had said that it was not submitted. We want to say it was not submitted. We don't know if it was not prepared. Cash verification form dated 1/8/2021 in the amount of $500 was not signed by a second counter. And that is a good statement. That's a statement of fact. It's clear, concise. It gives all the information of the cash verification form that's being referred to. Amy said the receipts for check number 2034 dated 2/10/21 in the amount of $325 were in the bungalow.
No, you don't want any names.
Right, yeah. No names. If you need to, you may refer to positions, but never personalize it. And it's total hearsay, it's not a proof of anything. The finding would be that check number, receipts for check number, blah, 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 were not included, period. The unit collected $10 for membership dues during the audit period. The bylaws state that the approved membership dues are $8. Is that a good statement? Yes, it is, because we are stating the fact, and here is where you would include the bylaws, which we say are important for you to look at. So you want to make sure you check those bylaws when looking at at the documentation and make sure it's the same. The April 2021 bank reconciliation was not signed. I told them before that this requirement needed to be implemented, and it was not done. How about that?
Can that one be reworded nicely?
Yes, yes, please. So we don't want to take a tone, but we said that it should be a little more strict because it is a repeat finding. So all we're going to say, and it doesn't say not signed by who. So we could say the April 2021 bank reconciliation was not signed by at all or by anyone, or just by the preparer or just by the reviewer. So you need to be more specific about that. And all you would say is this is a repeat finding, period. The association minutes do not report the release of funds for the carnival. Is that a good statement? Yes, it is, because the association minutes are supposed to record the release of funds. This is very clear, concise, what it's for. And didn't necessarily, if the minutes are specific to a date, I don't know. because release of funds could happen most any time, because you may need a release of funds of $1,000 to do a contract in September, and the carnival is not until May. So in this particular instance, it would be nice to reflect the association minutes, but it may not be, as easy as that. It could be anytime. So, okay.
There's one question in the chat referring to this exercise.
What do we do in the case that we have a unit participating in number 4?
Which is a membership dues issue, I believe. Roxy's nodding her head. Yes. So yeah, it's the one where they're charging $10, but their bylaws say $8.
Oh, yeah, I think we talked about that.
So what do we do
okay.
going forward, I suppose, is the
Yeah. Okay, definitely a finding, and it has to be rectified. And I would say, just from a financial point of view, send out a email saying that dues were overcharged, and do you want to refund or donate the money? Because you are collecting them in error. You're collecting money that's not been approved. And so the $2, like I said, more often than not, they will not respond to the email, and give a drop dead deadline, when you do that. Don't leave it open-ended. So you may say, and we did this, not exactly this way, but for when COVID hit, about fees that were paid, you give them a choice. You want to donate it or, have a refund. And the last day that you can respond to this email is such and such date. And so you're giving a deadline. And then all of the money that was collected at $2 should be posted to donation income from membership dues. I can't think of any other way to do that. And then stop it immediately.
do better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to launch the next poll. But if there are any questions about any of the material covered so far, feel free to put it in the chat.
We have a hand raised. Guadalupe.
I was just going to ask regarding the membership dues, how do we come up with those? Like, who places them?
It's up to your unit, to your board and association about how much you want to charge for membership. So it's any considerations that they may take. There's not any kind of set membership dues amount. So I've seen them as low as $7, as high as $20. It's what your board and association at your unit approves.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Under the same topic, I know. If we're already collecting the $10 on totem, who would correct the totem? Because totem collecting the $10 instead of the $8.
Well, totem is only collecting what you told them to collect. So you would have to go into totem and correct that amount. And I'm sure someone knows about totem better than I, but I know that the unit inputs the amount, and that's what totem collects.
Okay, so if you can't figure it out by going into the Join Totem website, then feel free to, I would say, you might contact the membership chair at CAPTA, because I think he would be able to help you through that, to correct it.
It's not in my unit. My unit's doing great.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Didn't mean to cast aspersions.
Okay, I'm going to erase your name now. It's not you. Okay.
We're still getting some trickling in. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds and I'll close it. So click your buttons now. Alrighty. And ending the poll. Here we go. And sharing the results. Okay.
Okay, so which of the following instances are considered a red flag? Lack of documentation of fundraiser income and expense, net proceeds considerably less than expected. And that's yes, that's definitely a red flag. And I've seen that in one of my audits where, you know, you have that chocolate fundraiser and you're supposed to make 50%. And the income was, let's say, 5,000, but the expense was 3,500. That just doesn't look right. It's not reasonable because you expect it to be more. And then, of course, looking into it, money was not collected from the parents that should have been, which is a finding. So if something just doesn't look right, just trust your instinct and just look into it, you know. Online bank statements are requested. Bank statements are not mailed by the bank to the unit. Actually, that is not a red flag because these days you are allowed to request bank statements online. I know mailing the statements costs $3. This would have to be approved by your board and association to make the motion to accept online bank statements so that they don't charge you $3. And these online bank statements should be requested by someone other than the treasurer and signed off on just as other bank statements are. So no, that would not be a red flag. Treasury reports are delivered orally to the board and association with a hard copy to follow. Definitely a red flag because where are those reports? You know, and so this is not transparent. You don't know how much the association or the board doesn't know how much money you have, what they're spending it on. There's no information whatsoever. And more likely than not, a hard copy is not following. So definitely a red flag. Check requests do not have original signatures of president and recording secretary. Actually, this is not a red flag because with COVID, and I think we mentioned before, emailing signatures, scanning, emailing, and e-signatures are okay for check requests. The only original signatures you need is on the actual check itself.
Sneaky,
So,
Flora, sneaky.
I know, yeah, that's just me. Okay, and the bank statements are not reviewed and initialed by a non-check signer. That would be a red flag because we want those bank statements to be just looked at, just to see if anything's weird. Maybe the bank balance is a lot less than what you heard last week at the Treasury report, for example. So you want the bank statements to be reviewed and initialed by a non-check signer. And I know this came about, it was CAPTA who had said somehow that a very clever person requested an online bank statement and was able to manipulate it. I find that hard to believe, but maybe so. So they're saying that a non-check signer should request those bank statements. A separate audit is not performed for a PayPal account. Yes, that is a red flag because we talked about PayPal accounts and you have to do drawdowns. And there was an instance where a treasurer never drew down their PayPal account because she figured they didn't need it. And it's like, yeah, no. You have to draw down those funds because you have to record the income and fee expense. Also, you want to make sure to audit those PayPal monthly reports because there was one time where there was a withdrawal and it went to a bank account that was not the school account. So you want to be aware of, especially PayPal, because they don't post the amount to your bank. And so some funny may happen. So as auditors, you prepare a separate audit for the PayPal account, and I would review those reports carefully. Okay.
All righty. So are there any other last minute questions before we wind this up? If not, I'll turn it over to Roxy.
Yay! So we are at the end of our time today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have learned some valuable information. For more information about PTA audits, you can visit our website, auditorpta.org, and California State PTA's website, capta.org. We also are planning a training in October, focusing on tax filings, and we are working on a Spanish version of the basic finance training, also in October. If you have additional questions or ideas for topics that you would like to provide training on or anything, please email us to PTA training at 33rdpta.org. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.